I first heard that song by Marilyn Manson, The Beautiful People, in 1995 when it came out. Maybe it came out in 1996. It scared the shit out of me. Seriously, it made me afraid. I saw the video. I'm not sure if anyone ever saw the video that goes with Beautiful People. It remains one of the scariest things I've ever seen. Jittery camera angles, Marilyn Manson, you know what his face looks like. Worms crawling, fascist salutes, the whole thing freaked me out. It triggered something that was like, this is dangerous, this is wrong. At the same time, because Marilyn Manson was making a name for himself and his band, articles that were coming out in 95, 96, Marilyn Manson was a Satanist. Marilyn Manson was evil. Marilyn Manson was blah, blah, blah. Marilyn Manson was being arrested around the country for, indecent blah, 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 blah. I accepted what I read about Marilyn Manson. It was pretty simple to do so. He looked like a freak. His music was not something that aesthetically appealed to me. His videos scared me profoundly. It was pretty easy to accept the fact that Marilyn Manson was evil. I do not need to think about him anymore, and if he comes up anymore, I will just put him into the box called evil. Okay, let's flash forward 12 years, maybe 15. The creative media BFA major here hosts something called 23 Hours of Art, an art marathon. And the first year that we did that, I think this was 4 or 5 years ago, I was hosting it, and I was encouraging students and faculty to bring a work of art to the event that made us consider what exactly is art, okay? And I had to think for myself, what is art? And I thought to myself, well, art is something that creates an effect on people. It's something that moves you. And so the piece I went back to was this video for Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson. And I thought, that was something that had a profound effect on me. And I watched it again. I did some research on the director. I want to call her Floria Sigismondi. I think I'm correct there. And by re-engaging with it, by reading about it, by re-exposing myself to it, it continued to scare me. It is a scary video. But I became convinced that it was a work of art. I now love that song. And I realized, wow, Marilyn Manson isn't singing about Satanism or let's bring down the Christian church or whatever the hell people were accusing him of. It's a song actually that politically resonates for me. It's anti-fascist, it's anti-capitalist in a lot of ways. It actually resonates with some of my values. Could I get past the fact that he's still scary looking and that it's a heavy German industrial sound that I don't like? Yes, I have been able to get past that. That's point one. Now I'm going to move to point two, 9/11. I'm assuming everyone remembers 9/11. When it happened, I had just started teaching here. I think it was in my second semester here. I was teaching a comm course. And within the weeks after 9/11, there was an article that I brought up with my students. And it said, 9/11 marks the death of moral relativism. Okay? Moral relativism, what is that? It means that morality is subjective, that it is open to interpretation, that different cultures might celebrate or value different things, and that other people could not, in a morally relativistic world, say, well, that's wrong, this is right, it's all relative, okay? So according to philosophers in the post-9/11 days and according to the Bush administration throughout his regime, moral relativism was dead. There is good in the world, there is evil in the world. You are either with us or you are against us. There is black and white, it is not gray. And in the days following 9/11, I accepted this. It made sense, it was simple. Parts of New York that I knew were destroyed. And it was profoundly upsetting, and it still is. How easy for me to say these people were evil, and there is no moral question about it. 5 years after that, the 5th anniversary of 9/11, I helped host a anniversary discussion on campus, 9/11. It was right here in Hockey. I did not host this particular event. I think it was Lauren Selfridge at that point who was hosting it, and it was a discussion among students talking about what are your thoughts, what are your feelings, let's come to terms with the events of 9/11. And one of the students in that discussion, we were sitting in a circle, he said, well, 5 years on, this is something I'm thinking about, that 9/11 became an opportunity for me and for fellow students to think about what's going on in the Middle East. What are certain American policies that may or may not be just? What are things that we need to look at and interrogate? And there was another student in the circle who, I think he raised his hand, he was perfectly polite, but he was very forceful, and he said, we cannot do that! Because if we do that, they will have won. That's what they want. They brought down the Twin Towers, they tried to bring down the Pentagon because they want us to consider their plight and what's going on for them. And it was a fascinating controversy in the room of people saying, yes, absolutely, we cannot consider this. And other people saying, but isn't that the point of being an educated person, is that we consider the possibilities. And I understood it. I understood it from both perspectives, because I felt the kind of hate and the danger around what happened in 9/11, and I understood as an educator the need to engage in discussion. There was fear here, right? And both sides were afraid. It was a dangerous thing to talk about. Third point, I'll tie them all together in a little bit. Last week in my Com 405 class, Protest, Performance, and Terror, I had a student, I don't see him here, we're talking about Habermas, Jürgen Habermas, and the idea of the ideal speech situation, and what makes something reasonable and what makes something unreasonable. And this student said, it is unreasonable for someone to refuse to listen to something. That, unlike the way we normally think of reasonableness, which is what's coming out of your mouth right now is unreasonable, right? I'm hearing emotion, I'm hearing blah, 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 I'm hearing like, shut up. And he said, no, it's actually the listener who dictates reasonableness, and that the person who refuses to listen, who has some sort of insecurity on your idea can challenge mine, or your idea has no validity and I've decided it in advance, is the unreasonable one. I've never heard this theory before. And I'm so proud that a senior at Champlain College sort of came up with something new in sort of the theoretical world of communication. He did not link it to this concept of fear, and I think that's where I want to go with the ending of my talk. I was afraid of Marilyn Manson. I know that sounds so weird, right? I'm afraid of Marilyn Manson. But there was something profoundly disturbing about it. It triggered me. I didn't want to deal with it. Students in that thing 5 years after 9/11, they were profoundly afraid of interrogating and investigating their ideas and their feelings around the 9/11 trauma that they experienced. And I get it, that it was a trauma, okay? So, my goal today is to encourage all of you, students, faculty, staff, visitors, I don't really know who you are, to move past the fear, to confront new ideas, to allow yourself to be challenged to think in new and different ways that might be profoundly uncomfortable, that are not simple truths that you think you know. The world is a complex and difficult place, but I think that is the goal of a higher education. Thank you.